Make sure your astromech is strapped in, your lightsaber is holstered, and check your limbs are all intact. Because it's time to delve into the most surprising, astounding, or simply unexpectedly hilarious time Star Wars caught fans completely off guard. Jabba the Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are the 10 biggest WTF Star Wars moments. Number 10, Palpatine and Yoda Get Nuts, the prequel trilogy. Throughout their time acting as two of the original trilogy's most powerful and mysterious entities, Emperor Palpatine and Yoda often displayed just how proficient they were in the ways of the Force. What fans did not get to witness, however, is how well they were able to wield the trusted go-to weapon of many a Jedi and Sith. But that all changed over the course of George Lucas's prequel trilogy, and simply put, not a soul alive was ready for the frankly absurd visuals heading their way. Not only were the little green legend and the possessor of unlimited power a pair of dab hands with a laser sword, the two suddenly transformed from a set of senile space wizards into full-blown Force-sensitive studs. Yoda's first on-screen duel in particular instantly became yet another one of the more divisive elements the prequels had to offer, with some lapping up the audacious acrobatics on show, while others felt that the Jedi Master's silly lightsaber gymnastics took a bit of the mystique away from a cherished figure. Either way, you'd be lying if you said your jaw didn't drop even for only a brief moment the first time these masterful titans pulled out their swords. Number 9, the return of the Skywalker, the Mandalorian. At a time when trying to execute a genuinely stunning surprise on the small or big screen has never been more difficult, the fact Jon Favreau and their gang were able to keep the Mandalorian Season 2 finale shocker completely under wraps was seriously impressive. Heading into the closing stages of Chapter 16, Mando and the gang looked to be in some serious trouble as the Dark Troopers closed in on their position, but then a rather familiar X-Wing suddenly lands on the cruiser. One of the most emotionally charged dispatching of droid sequences to ever grace the galaxy far, far away later, the all but confirmed return of none other than Luke Bloody Skywalker himself was finally made official thanks to some digital wizardry and a returning Mark Hamill. With the episode itself dropping in the thick of the global pandemic, fans the world over found themselves passionately connecting online over just how damn taken aback they all were about the comeback of a character no one honestly saw coming. And for a few moments there, one of the most difficult periods in modern history was entirely forgotten as fans lost their minds over this heartwarming return of the Jedi. Number 8, Everybody Dies, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. There was actually a time there when the likes of Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor may have made it out of arguably the greatest Star Wars feature of the last decade in one piece. This was largely down to the fact that the likes of Gareth Edwards and co weren't convinced Disney and Lucasfilm would ever sanction such a dark and deadly conclusion to a Star Wars story. But as anyone who sat through the entirely unanticipated bittersweet conclusion of Rogue One can attest to, the team did ultimately get their morbid wish in the end. And the ultimate sacrifice was dramatically made late in the day by everyone in the titular crew in order to successfully get the rebels' hands on those all-important Death Star plans. After investing so heavily in the likes of Jyn, Cassian, K2SO and the rest of the makeshift unit over the course of their routinely gripping quest to find the key to taking out the Empire's new superweapon, the sight of our central heroes all shockingly biting the dust after finally succeeding is about as bold a conclusion as you'll ever witness in such a big-budget epic. However, it was unquestionably the right call and helped cement this Star Wars story as one of the absolute finest. Number 7, Leia Flies in Space, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Stepping into slightly more controversial waters now, and to a floating sequel trilogy visual that almost instantly divided the Star Wars fandom. I'm of course talking about the sight of General Leia Organa herself being blasted out of her cruiser, only to suddenly and rather surreally shoot herself across space via the Force. This acted as the first real time fans had witnessed Leia wield the mysterious power on the big screen, and to say it left them with their jaws dangling off the floor would be a bit of an understatement. Some applauded such a daring and rousing reveal of Leia's hinted at but never really cinematically explored Force sensitivity, whereas others were quick to blast the Leia Poppins development as another silly and absurd sequence to add to an already divisive Episode 8. Whether you were an instant fan of the icon's emotional Force-assisted attempts to survive, or struggle to sit through Leia's bizarre spaceflight without rolling your eyes, both sides can all agree that the legend soaring through the stars was about as extraordinary as it gets. Number 6, New Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now you can't exactly blame what was left of Anakin Skywalker being a little bit upset about the tragic revelation sent his way late in the Revenge of the Sith day. But that still didn't change the fact that many were left wondering what in the holy hell they were witnessing when the first few moments of a newly suited Darth Vader arrived on the prequel scene. Staggering off the operating table on the back of being informed that he was apparently responsible for the death of his beloved Padme Amidala, the stuff of memes before memes were even really a thing was hilariously born. And yo, heard across the galaxy and in theaters all over the world, was the absolute worst kind of hammy and melodramatic, reducing what could have honestly been the truly heartbreaking point of seemingly no return for the Dark Lord to one of the most laughable beats in Star Wars history. Number 5, Rey is a Palpatine, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Look, there were more than a few moments over the course of whatever J.J. Abrams was trying to achieve with The Rise of Skywalker that led to those watching on scratching their heads at the madness unfolding before them. But the utterly strange development that easily sits head and shoulders above the rest, that were all found in the nostalgia fest that is Episode 9, undoubtedly comes in the form of the reveal that Rey wasn't actually a nobody, folks. She was a walking, talking Palpatine. Something that had ranked as one of the more outlandish and ludicrous fan theories to tumble out of The Force Awakens soon became a deeply unexpected and downright peculiar piece of canon. In reality though, this felt like little more than an attempt to wrong foot and cheaply stun those wanting to see how the Skywalker saga would come to its long-awaited end. It did precisely that, it must be said. However, this WTF reveal unfortunately also shrunk the galaxy far, far away a little bit more, and killed off the idea of one not needing to be related to a famous family to make a difference. Number 4, Boba's book becomes Mandalorian Season 2.5, The Book of Boba Fett. Fans who'd waited a lifetime to finally witness the galaxy's most badass bounty hunter be given the spotlight he always deserved were understandably a little excited as the Book of Boba Fett wandered onto Disney Plus in late 2021. After a bit of a slow start though, it's safe to say those giddy Boba fanatics were left feeling a little underwhelmed by the book they were watching come to life. And then, in a twist fans perhaps should have seen coming given Fett's reintroduction came during The Mandalorian, the star of that other much more celebrated show suddenly decided to drop by and pretty much steal the clones. Mando's surprising appearance alone was enough to leave fans suddenly punching the air in unanticipated glee. But perhaps the bigger WTF development was the fact that Din Djarin, Grogu, Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano's inclusion in the series acted as the Book of Boba Fett's unquestionable highlights. Simply put, the arrival of Mando and the gang was a joyous surprise for sure, but it also served as evidence that this particular book likely would have gone down better as another Mandalorian tale rather than a supposed Boba story that wasn't really interesting enough to warrant its own show. Number 3, Kino can't swim, Andor. Andy Serkis's completely unforeseen appearance as part of Rogue One prequel series Andor in general was enough to cause many a Star Wars fan to utter the words that inspired this very list aloud. However, it was one particular line his instantly captivating Kino Loy uttered during the One Way Out episode that delivered the franchise one of its most heartbreakingly shocking moments to date. After already providing the series with one hell of a final never more than 12 line in the prior entry, if you know, you know, the figure once seen as an inmate who simply wanted to get through his time in prison ultimately grows into the fiery leader of the rebellion that battles their way to freedom. But in a deeply moving and entirely startling turn of events, after inspiring Cassian and his fellow workers to freedom, the final step to securing his escape is suddenly one too far for Kino. With the waves of inmates all jostling to dive out of the jail and into the water surrounding it down below, Serkis's delivery of the fateful phrase "I can't swim" as he realizes he only came this far to come this far was simply devastating. Kino may still have a part to play in Season 2, however, with it being unclear as to what exactly happened next for this unfortunate Loy. Number 2, Darth Maul survives the Clone Wars. And one of the reasons fans are right to hold out hope for the aforementioned Kino's survival can be found in this very entry. After seemingly being decisively cut down by Obi-Wan Kenobi in the wake of taking out his master on Naboo, those who felt they'd sadly seen the last of one of the coolest Sith Lords in the galaxy were treated to a rather stunning comeback in the Clone Wars animated series. Driven mad in the wake of that aforementioned bisecting, Maul is shockingly discovered by his own brother Savage Opress 10 years on from that Kenobi clash during Season 4. And the one-time apprentice of Darth Sidious is now seen sporting a particularly creepy mechanical spider-like body on the back of his sheer hatred remarkably keeping him alive. The animalistic creature that Maul had become in his exile soon has his mind repaired by Mother Talzin on Dathomir, however, and this paved the way for a far more driven and enraged version of the Force-sensitive icon than fans had ever seen before on their screens, as he set his sights on revenge against his mortal enemy, Kenobi! Number 1, somehow Leia always knew. What? Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Over the course of the first 2 original trilogy episodes, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo both appeared to be acting as 2 potential loves for Leia Organa, with the princess sharing a smooch with the 2 leading lads at various points in A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. But in a rather uncomfortable swerve that just about no one expected to become a Star Wars reality back in 1983, Leia was ultimately revealed to have been Luke's twin sister the entire time. And making matters that little more icky, Leia then responded to this apparent surprise revelation with the words of, "Somehow I've always known" in Return of the Jedi. That's right, when locking lips with the Jedi in training on Hoth, and also laying a smacker on his cheek when trying to escape the Death Star, Leia apparently had a feeling that the person she was getting particularly close to was her twin bro all along. Admittedly, the familial twist itself clearly wasn't a part of the OG trilogy plan from the get-go, but that still didn't change the fact that its eventual execution provided the galaxy far, far away with a shocking piece of dialogue that only grows increasingly more awkward with each subsequent viewing. And that's our list. Of any other massive WTF Star Wars moments that we've missed, then please lay them on us down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this sort of WTF madness, then go and head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you. Hopefully I'll see your faces very, very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!